like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. Aaron Burnett out front. Weekdays on CNN.
This is CNN.
This is CNN.
An eye for an eye? President Trump pressuring Attorney General Pam Bondi to target rivals. But is he pushing legal boundaries? Could it backfire? With me now, former Chief of Staff at the Department of Homeland Security under President Trump, Miles Taylor. He's one of the people being targeted by the Trump administration as well. Miles, good to see you. A lot has been happening, as you can imagine, and the White House is insisting that Trump supports Bondi 100%, despite his very public pressure campaign to indict political opponents. But I wonder, from your opinion and what you've seen in the past, are her days numbered if she does not do as he says in that area?
Yes, they are. In fact, I've lived this story in an eerily similar way because, some people have even drawn parallels between Pam Bondi and one of my former bosses, Kirstjen Nielsen, who was Secretary of Homeland Security, both very smart, fast-talking blondes in positions in Trump's cabinet that he cares a great deal about, and people who he's not afraid to yell at in public. Kirstjen Nielsen in the first Trump administration, he would say nice things, and then he would say very, very critical things on television to put pressure on there. And I've seen that story. And I think right now he is sending a very clear signal to the Attorney General. If you do not go prosecute my enemies, despite the fact that they appear not to have evidence at the Justice Department to go prosecute the people on the president's enemies list, then he'll get rid of them and he'll put someone in the job who will. And he showed that, of course, as you noted, in the Eastern District of Virginia by replacing the prosecutor there with a White House loyalist. He won't hesitate to do that with Bondi.
And just so we're clear, the idea of not having evidence, it's not like details. That's a really significant thing given the burden of proof from the government to have to prove guilt. And it's just astounding to me that that would be something not considered. But let me ask you this, because the president unequivocally said during Charlie Kirk's memorial, he said, I hate my opponents and I don't want the best for them. Obviously, a quite stark contrast from what Charlie Kirk's widow was describing in terms of her views and that sad memorial that she was having to experience the loss of her husband. You have long believed that President sees you as a foe. Does that rhetoric that he said concern you?
Well, look, I think it should concern any American. For me personally, that's something that I've anticipated. But I think the takeaway for folks should be that these people the president is targeting, his enemies, most of the people on that list are people who have criticized him. And I'll read you a quote, Laura, from someone who had something to say about what that means when you go after free speech like that. Here's the quote, and we'll see if we can guess who the person is. The quote is, if the idea of free speech enrages you, the cornerstone of democratic self-government, I regret to inform you that you are a fascist. That quote was from Stephen Miller, the White House Homeland Security advisor 3 years ago. He said, if you don't believe in the idea of free speech, you are a fascist. Now, Donald Trump, in going after so many of his critics for speaking out against him, and going after news networks, and going after comedians, has crossed a red line into dictator territory. He's demanding these people be prosecuted without evidence. And that's a line even his closest allies had drawn in the past. And you've seen, Laura, all throughout this year, there have been very few issues that actually spooked fellow conservatives, except latest efforts by the president to crack down on free speech have started to get people like Senator Ted Cruz, have started to get people like Tucker Carlson, and others.
Hey, calm down.
But I do think we are genuinely in a place that has never been with the weaponization of justice.
Oh, we're not going out there, bitch. You got me fucked up.
Miles Taylor, thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
I want to bring in former Assistant U.S. Attorney Kim Whaley. You could follow her on Substack at The Little Law School with Kim Whaley. I love that, by the way.
Yeah, I wasn't doing that.
Not that the DOJ or this DOJ would actually prosecute this sitting president. But tell me, have any laws actually been broken by the President of the United States directing his Attorney General to prosecute his perceived enemies? There aren't any
What?
cases on this.
What is the problem?
This hasn't really happened, but the protection that in theory could be violated is the due process clause of the Constitution. This idea that if prosecutors are picking and choosing targets of investigations and prosecutions based on race, based on religion, based on politics, that's denying you your fundamental right to a fair shot. But the bar for establishing that is really high because the law just assumes prosecutors act in good faith. That's just how it's historically been. So if it were a low bar and you could raise that claim all the time, every defendant would raise it. So they've made it so that you really have to show that meaning the court, the Supreme Court, that you really have to show that there was this intentional vindictiveness or a choice that was made based on criteria that's unconstitutional.
Well, that's why, if I were a prosecutor handling matters still, I'd be pulling my hair out at the thought that there would be some very vocal statement by the President of the United States directing an Attorney General and presumably the people that work for and under her. There would be a defense counsel who'd be savvy enough and frankly just literate enough to read it and go, Your Honor, courts, appeals, etc. This is something that's a problem. Isn't that part of
the look at me.
No question. So that kind of sort of smoking gun evidence of intent, of some kind of animus, is unheard of. You normally have to connect the dots in other ways. But there are two problems with that. Number one is the court has said so long as there's some evidence, they'll get a presumption that the case would go forward based on the evidence. The other wrinkle I see is the case last summer, Trump versus United States, where the Supreme Court gave the president immunity to commit crimes, basically so long as he uses his power of his office, which includes, prosecutorial power. And I think the fact that the Attorney General is an arm's length from the president, the Supreme Court also said you can't look into his intent. Right. I think that's going to be a hurdle in these cases that muddies the water a bit. And of course, we have a very friendly Supreme Court majority for Donald Trump right now.
We often talk about a constitutional crisis, but what about a credibility crisis? I mean, prosecutors, they're considered fungible.
Okay, that makes sense. No, it's a convenient play, but I definitely think that it's true.
Wow,
because
just teetering on
bitch, we all know she was the biggest star.
Yeah, we've both been
so
at DOJ before.
She got more money, more shit.
The morale is very low given the...
He's trying to ride like a bandit.
And also the fact that they might appear to...
Because he mad and a hoe.
Biased and politically motivated. That's really the death knell for a prosecutor wanting to have credibility in the court.
Credibility in the court, credibility with judges.
Right.
And also, these are very plum jobs in the legal world, as you know. It's very difficult to get a job with the DOJ. There's a prestige to it. People take it very, very seriously. It's a somber approach to serving the public, and they could be in fancy law firms making a lot of money. They do this because they believe in the mission of the rule of law. What is the rule of law, Laura? It's consistent across the globe in liberal democracies. It means that the law is applied not arbitrarily, that whoever's in charge of law is not picking winners and losers based on who they like or dislike, but based on facts and rules. And it's that sacred sense of what makes us a democracy, which is that even-handed law application, which I think is really what is being put by the wayside right now, and it's really a tragedy.
And Whaley, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Up next, Kamala Harris explains why she stayed silent despite her concerns about Joe Biden's recent run again. Highlights from her brand new interview next. And later, the president makes an unproven link between autism and Tylenol and tells America's pregnant women to, quote, tough it out. Confusion is already causing. Next.
Today, we live in an unpredictable environment, and news races around the world at breakneck speed.
What? Jesus, calm down.
I think that...
What? Come here.
Successful economically.
My show brings
Come here.
you and top news figures. Do you feel the Trump administration understands what's at stake? I'll be honest, we have to work on it.
Okay, I'm brown.
What do you want?
Alright, we brown.
And we also dive below the headlines.
These scenes have been the most emotional scenes.
facility.
What do you want the impact of this particular film to be?
It's corny to say, but it's about love. Is anything worth dying for, or anything worth living for?
It's crucial we make sense of what's happening and fully understand what's at stake. The line of contact against Russia.
Weekdays with CNN.
Did the re-election of Donald Trump play any role in your decision to resign? Why do you need to study it? It sounds like the facts are on your fingertips.
Great question.
You continue to fight for your name to trade war.
Gumbo, where are you at? How are you stuck? You got in. Gumbo, what are you doing? Yeah. Yeah.
Take the baby dog. It's on my job. It's my job. Here.
Yeah. That is wild. What? Move. Move. They better be rumbling up there. Damn. They took me out.
Infrastructure at that place is state of the art. It won't take you long to pull the data.
My bitch said go. No.
Transfer's complete. Go down the corridor and get in the elevator. Keep going. You need to get to the cooling tunnel. That'll take you out to the sea. Lucky for you, the guards dropped some flares by the pool. Look out for them. All right, get the breathing apparatus on and get in the drink. R&D's...
you carrying lately? Got pretty much everything in here. Stay strapped.
Mm.
Next time you come by, asshole! What the?
A ground approach to the penthouse is too risky, too much visibility. Air approach is the best option. To LSIA, plenty of choppers there we can requisition. Wouldn't be your first time. The FIB received so many unauthorized access reports from airfields, they logged you as an employee to cut down on paperwork. VIP arrival. Expect increased security. Hangar's on lockdown, but I found a recent report about the building having a faulty bypass system in the rafters. It should short out the system if you hit it. I have a contact that can keep the chopper secure until we need it. Former waterboarding expert. Good at keeping quiet. Fly it to the drop-off when you have it. Chopper is in position. I'm sending someone in to run a full check on it. Your record shows a willingness to fly anything, but let's make sure it's reliable.
Says it will air news programming instead. Over at Yaz from Nexstar Media Group, which also plans to preempt him. Tuesday's original decision over the weekend at company offices in New York. 400 artists, including Hollywood A-listers, signed a letter organized by the ACLU with support for free speech. For Kimmel's return to air, I'm joined by CNN's chief media analyst Brian Stelber. Great to have you with us. So, to be a flyable between ABC
To be a flyable. To be a flyable. On the wall. On the wall. On the wall.
Okay, ready to steal this car? Because you look ready.
On the wall.
Seriously, I mean, you know,
On the wall.
I'd believe you if you were coming by to clean some
On the wall.
toilets. Okay, so it's showtime.
On the wall. On the wall.
But beyond the personal, this was also incredibly political. It's very polarizing. And even as you bring him back on the air, it's very controversial in the U.S. with many Trump voters, MAGA loyalists, already speaking out against it. I think ABC was having to weigh all the factors the past week, all the business calculations, yes, the concern about government pressure going forward, moral questions that have been raised by free speech and free expression groups and many Hollywood actors and producers and showrunners. The pressure mounted on ABC was really intense from employees, from others. Even from president's family or his David King executives. I don't think any of them peeped on side. It looks like they were really caving to the president. So here we are, people returning to the air on the United States. There are some stations that are in the air.
And just to remind our viewers, the backlash against suspension came after a threat by the FCC chairman, Brendan Carter.
Right, when we see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct and take action.
Man, this car is something special, you know? What the history?
There can be additional work for the FCC.
We gotta put the next to a whole lot for us.
What followed was criticism of that crackdown on free speech from unexpected places, even from Republican Senator Ted Cruz.
Look, I like Brendan Carter, but what he said there is dangerous as hell. He says, we can do this the easy way, or we could do this the hard way.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, that's right out of Goodfellas. That's right out of a mafioso coming into a bar going, nice bar you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
So what does it say that the right wing of the Republican Party was defending a late night host who is
Right, there's really created a schism on the right with some media influencers cheering for Kimmel's suspension and others saying this is a worrisome precedent and you're not going to like these so-called rules when they're reversed and used against conservatives. And so in other words, folks like Cruz, Rand Paul, and others taking more of a principled position, understanding that the free speech rights apply to everyone and that you don't want a government that happens to be controlled by one party to then have everything reversed later. Listen, I think though for a lot of Trump voters, for a lot of diehard Republicans, they are in this moment. They are not thinking 5 or 10 years ahead. They are in this moment, wanting to settle scores, wanting what they consider revenge. And Kimmel is a very juicy target, and that's not changing just because he's back on the air on Tuesday night. He's going to remain very much under scrutiny and very much a target of President Trump's going forward, I think.
So what can we expect Tuesday night? Do you think he'll tackle this head on, or will it be business as usual?
You know, the indication is that he will address this controversy, and frankly, how could he not? He is outspoken in his criticism of both the president and the administration, and that's what his viewers expect. You know, in a sharply divided country where the president has about a 50% approval rating, that means about 6 in 10 Americans do not approve of President Trump. They certainly don't approve of infringement on free speech. So Kimmel has a big possible audience that wants to hear from him. You know, in some ways, the declining linear ratings for late night hide the true power of the shows. The true power of these shows is in the social clips they generate, in the YouTube presence, and all of that. And in some ways, this is going to make Kimmel bigger than ever. You know, his contract's coming up next spring. ABC will have a decision to make next spring about whether to keep him or not. I think in the short term, this controversy might make Kimmel bigger than ever.
Yeah, there's plenty of people tuning in Tuesday night for this show, but I have to wonder about the ABC affiliates, because Sinclair said they wouldn't air his show even when the suspension was lifted. So could this become a bigger issue for the ABC?
Yeah, it is, and that's why this controversy is not going away. That's why the free speech concerns are not going away. What we're seeing is an ongoing, every day, in different ways in America, an ongoing fracture between red and blue, between left and right. And in this case, Sinclair, a conservative media company with right-wing Trump-donating owners, with stations in largely red Republican markets, it's refusing to air the show going forward. Sinclair's representative told me they're in talks with ABC, looking for a path forward. But at least for now, it is not going to be airing in some of those more Republican, ruby red markets across the U.S. To me, this is a sign of something very bleak about American life and society, where even broadcast TV is no longer quite so broad that even the same shows are not appearing depending on what city you happen to live in.
So as always, great to get your analysis. Thanks so much. The US President is preparing to speak at the UN General Assembly, which gets underway in the coming day. We'll be meeting on the sidelines with the President, Ukraine, and the European Commission. Donald Trump will also host the leaders of Arab and Muslim nations, including Qatar, Pakistan, Indonesia, Turkey, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. Expected to discuss the war in Gaza and will likely urge him to pressure Israel to end the war. It comes amid a groundswell of support for a two-state solution. The UN Secretary General says it is the only way of this nightmare. France and several other Western nations are the latest to formally declare their recognition of a Palestinian state. They join about 150 UN members that have already done so. The French president says Palestinian statehood is the only way to allow Israel to live in peace, and claims that it would be a defeat for Hamas. The Israeli Prime Minister says it would encourage terrorism. Prime Minister Luxembourg, which newly supports a two-state solution, says its decision does not mean it's against Israel, but rather against the actions of Prime Minister Netanyahu.
We have always been friends of Israel, and we remain friends with them. We hope it will immediately end for hostages. But at the same time, we want to give the Palestinians hope for the future, and also ensure that the Israelis can live in peace. And the only way forward is to make sure that now this two-state solution gets, I would say, new energy, a second chance.
CNN's Melissa Bell has a close look at the growing push for Palestinian statehood.
France has become one of several countries to recognize the state of Palestine. It was a move announced several months ago by the French and the Saudis, attempts to bring together a conference that would aim to put back at the heart of Middle Eastern politics and peace efforts the idea of a two-state solution. As one senior source here in Paris explained, that very idea had become radical as a result of not just what's happened in Gaza over the last couple of years, but also what's been happening in the West Bank. The aim of the French to place it back in a central position. This is what the French president had to say.
Le temps est venu. The time has come. This is why, true to the historic commitment of my country to the Middle East, to peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, this is why I declare that today, France recognizes the state of Palestine.
The aim, explained the French president, not simply the recognition of Palestine, but the fact that there would be no peace.
Oh, shake some ass. Stick a finger in your hole.
Which would see things like an international force deployed to Gaza in place of the IDF to try and secure peace. The first aim, he said, would be to bring peace to that region, with a second phase aimed at reconstructing Gaza and figuring out how a post-peace single state might function. There has been a lot of speculation about what exactly this might mean and what difference it will make on the ground, given the rejection of the idea both by the United States and by Israel. What allies around France and those who backed this proposal and followed France's lead hope is that this will increase the isolation of the United States and Israel and potentially bring more pressure to bear on the
As soon as you're in the car, beeline that shit. Listen, the guards are gonna lock the loading bay doors if they know
the talks can once again start on hopes for peace in the Middle East. Melissa Valsiena in Paris.
The main airports in the capitals of Denmark and Norway are back up and running after an unidentified drone sighting forced flight cancellations and delays. Officials closed the airspace over Copenhagen Airport for several hours Monday night after spotting 2 to 3 large unidentified drones. And early Tuesday morning, the airspace over Oslo International Airport was also closed due to another drone sighting. Radar shows planes diverting away from the airports. It's not clear where the drones came from. There's no indication that they're related to the recent incursions into European airspace by Russian aircraft. NATO's political decision-making body is set to meet Tuesday to discuss those Russian incursions into Estonian airspace. Estonia requested NATO Article 4 consultation after 3 Russian jets entered its airspace without permission. On Monday, the UN held an Emergency Security Council session where Estonia and its allies condemned Russia for what they call reckless behavior and deliberate provocation. Russia denies that its jets entered Estonian airspace. CNN's Frederick Plyton brings us the reaction from Moscow.
Kremlin-controlled TV ripping into the U.S.'s NATO allies after NATO said Russian jets violated member state Estonia's airspace late last week. This time, it wasn't drones, but Russian Aerospace Force's aircraft that caused the panic, the anchor says. 3 of our MiG-31 fighter jets allegedly flew into Estonian airspace and remained there for 12 minutes. While the Russian military denies its planes crossed into NATO territory, analysts here warning of escalation. There has to be some way out of this crisis, he says, and the symptoms indicate that some form of military conflict will be inevitable. The MiG-31 fighters involved in the incident are some of the fastest in the world, able to carry Russia's hypersonic, nuclear-capable ballistic missile, the Kinjal. It's the latest in a string of events increasing tensions between NATO and Russia, coming just days after Poland said it had to scramble jets to shoot down more than a dozen Russian drones that violated its airspace. Still, the Kremlin accusing America's allies of stirring up confrontation. We consider such claims to be empty, a Kremlin spokesman said, unfounded, and part of a completely reckless campaign to escalate tensions and provoke a confrontational atmosphere. But while the Russians are verbally beating up on the U.S.'s NATO partners, Moscow is pushing a key incentive for President Trump. All this just days after Russia put on large-scale naval drills launching cruise missiles from nuclear-powered subs. Russian President Vladimir Putin offering President Trump another olive branch, saying Russia is willing to extend a nuclear arms treaty between Washington and Moscow. Naturally, this would require conditions for its full-scale resumption and take into account the entire range of efforts aimed at normalizing bilateral relations and resolving fundamental security contradictions. Reflected CNN, Moscow.
President Putin says he's willing to extend that key nuclear arms treaty if the U.S. does the same. The current treaty, known as New START, governs arsenals of long-range nuclear weapons as well as intercontinental missiles. It's set to expire in February. Now, speaking to the Russian Security Council, Putin accused Western governments of undermining dialogue between nuclear-armed states. He says Russia needs to respond to threats, but says he has, quote, no interest in further escalating tensions. Here's how the White House is responding.
The president is aware of this offer extended by President Putin, and I'll let him comment on it later. I think it sounds pretty good, but he wants to make some comments on that himself, and I will let him do that.
The U.S. president stunned medical experts by linking autism with a common painkiller. Still ahead, CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr.
Just
Sanjay
making
Gupta,
shit
lays
up.
out the studies that contradict Donald Trump's claim.
The biggest trends, the latest business ventures, and the boldest investments pushing the concert forward. They're all required to build a better outcome. Who will see profits? What opportunities will come? Where will growth take shape?
We've positioned ourselves within the community that we want to empower.
And how will it all impact the global economy? We want to provide people with opportunities for them to be their best, to build meaningful careers.
Wait, hold up. What I missed? Hold up.
This weekend on CNN, the whole story with Anderson Cooper and winner for outstanding reporting.
Let's see that beautiful face.
CNN's best journalist is here.
She's 35. Look this pretty. Never seen my friends look so hot before. I would do anything for a queen like you. You say that till you get one, and you're like, nah.
The whole story with Anderson Cooper on CNN.
Today, we live in an unpredictable environment that uses and speed to make
I wasn't ignoring y'all. I'm gaming.
Societies that suppress their women are the least successful economically. My show brings you the native views and thought makers, including the Trump administration, understand what's at stake.
I'll be honest, we have to work on it.
What do you want people to know about mortality? And we also dive below the headlines.
These scenes have been the most emotional scenes of the series.
What do you want the impact of this particular film to be?
It's corny to say, but it's about love. It's the only thing.
Here's a breakdown of what you can find outline. The real question comes down to, where is the supreme leader? Where are we when it comes to inflation? Direct, in-depth, and raw. Do you think that Pam Bondi is hiding something?
Hell yeah, he's hiding something.
Getting ahead of the biggest stories and giving you context you won't find anywhere else. We are in an unprecedented moment. You like your those?
Hi, I'm ready to take some capitalism. Here is the outside. Wait next on CNN.
Won't you drive into a damn bed?
Unprecedented access to the White House, the Capitol Hill, and fidelity. Taking a bunch of tech, political coverage for the balance, and watch everyone source. Our Laura Coach Live, we cover it all. From legal matters. At least one juror has not been excused from political showdowns. How much do you think that weighs on the president and the conversations in between? Wade from Washington, Wade, what's your question? Will you take this all the way to the Supreme Court?
I'm not refuting a syllable of what you said.
What do you say to people who are looking to find their voice? All the news on Laura Coach Live. It's on CNN.
This is CNN.
Hong Kong is preparing for the arrival of a powerful typhoon. The approach of Typhoon Regasa is prompting authorities to shut down schools and businesses. As it heads towards landfall in mainland China, Regasa is bringing winds of up to 220 kilometers an hour. Heavy rains
Get-
caused significant storm surge as the typhoon passes south of Hong Kong. Authorities are expected to raise the typhoon signal in the city to level 8 by midday. Most passenger flights in and out of the area have been delayed until early Thursday. The storm swept through the northern part of the Philippines on Monday. Medical experts are criticizing U.S. President's announcement linking the use of Tylenol during pregnancy with autism. Donald Trump made the announcement despite decades of evidence that the common painkiller, also known as paracetamol, is safe. Tylenol is the main brand name, and it
Are you cheating on me? Be honest. Who is this other guy in the chat? I saw her talking to another man. I won't lie, I've been lurking. God, I thought we had something special. FML. I would never do such a thing. What are you talking about? That's a cute dog. This is a cat.
Language from the FDA that came out after that press conference. Even there, they're not suggesting that people stop taking Tylenol, especially for fevers during pregnancy.
Oh, they thought you were a dog.
That's the paradox of the One researcher said, in hot weather months, ice cream use goes up and violent crime goes up. No, but they might be considered associated. In fact, if you look at Tylenol use over the last couple of decades for pregnant women, usage has come down a bit, even as autism rates have gone up. Something to keep in mind. Yet there have been these signals of concerns about potential associations between Tylenol and autism. And that's why a particularly big study was done. It came out of Sweden. They looked at 2 million children. About 10% of the moms had taken Tylenol during pregnancy. They had babies. They had siblings.
I wish you'd massage me like you massaged that dog.
And the bottom line is when they put all of that data together, they did not find any link.
I don't have a dog at all.
Those sort of studies. One thing that came out was this idea that if a woman has a fever during pregnancy, how big a problem is that in and of itself? Association problem.
I have 2 cats.
In the first place, could that fever be caused by infection? Could the infection or the fever be really what's driving a potential association with autism? Again, these are complicated studies. That's why you have to do it. Not treating the fever during pregnancy is a problem. It can be associated with birth defects, can be associated with early labor, can be associated with miscarriage and neurodevelopmental problems.
It must be the camera angle. But that is a dog. Lol.
Have fevers during pregnancy or need to take something for pain, take the smallest dose for the shortest amount of time, and I think that's change.
So can I slide in your DMs or no? I mean, you can try.
Government is under public pressure, coming up the latest on a nationwide strike and the mass protests calling for more action.
Mr. Borkers, good doggy.
I'm headed to Angle, a journey of fascination. This is the best place in every city's places to really get off. Like I'm here to clean my soul and get back to why you leave home in the first place. Here, I love
You can't have this.
beautiful scenery. It's incredible. But I'm living a new challenge. It's very beautiful. Yeah, first I'll be doing my best to keep up with the winners. Being very people.
Precise designs, subtle curves, curated upgrades.
Move, you in the way. I can't see.
Wilderness. This chapters it is.
Yo, if we want to keep my operation out at sea, away from the authorities, we need to destroy any files with permission for it to cover the dock.
For an experience beyond the lens.
Also, you know how I was saying we needed this guide? Well, the Coast Guard pulled up there too. So how do you feel about snatching a pair of rubber boots while you're in the neighborhood?
This weekend on CNN. CNN Academy is turning 5 from Abu Dhabi to the world. We're empowering the next generation of global journalists.
Welcome to CNN Academy. We have 140 students from all around the world.
We've delivered more than 1,000 hours of immersive learning and hands-on training.
It's been an incredible week.
Partnering with leading media organizations and universities across the world. Delivering the newsroom to the classroom.
Salty ass pretzel.
And of course,
Cut it out!
Legacy of South Korea's last dynasty. Religious attacks started in 1392. That's over 100 years. Just kings trading the word from this hall, Sanchong. In 2024, the space was meticulously recreated by a collection of Korea's top artists.
It's essential to recreate conventions to truly experience the lifestyle of the streets of course. Documents invites the artisans and the listeners to see and touch the regions
Influence and wealth, SC, this documents, and this box designed to carry the royal seal of the king. 5 artisans work together to recreate this foldable chair for the king, and everything in the hall features royal symbols that represent longevity.
Palaces weren't just ordinary buildings. They reflected shared values upheld by everyone, including the king.
Bitch, I have popcorn.
Stop whatever you're doing right now. The Wendy's $8 JDC meal deal is here. That's 2 junior bacon cheeseburgers, medium fries, and a medium drink. So you better be on your way. Bacon wings for no one. The #1 deal for the #1 bacon cheeseburger, gotta be Wendy's.
Peter Piper's pepper bacon improved and hangs. So he ordered the supplies he needed from Amazon Business. Positive. Amazon Business. Your small business box.
Bro, I have popcorn. Oh my god.
Just can't stop being American. Stops America, and the government stops Ram.
I think I did 3 minutes. I think.
I'm Marty Roger on Capitol Hill, and this is CNN.
Welcome back in the Digging K. Let's take a look at today's top stories. The suspension is over. Jimmy Kimmel Live set to return to air on Tuesday. Disney and ABC pulled the late-night comedy show after Kimmel addressed the death of political activist Charlie Kirk. But they reversed that decision after debates on free speech and protests at Disney offices. Some stations will preempt the show. A prominent Egyptian activist is free following a presidential pardon, according to Egyptian state media. The 42-year-old dual Egyptian-British citizen Alaa Abd El Fattah is seen here reuniting with his family members. The activist was most recently sentenced in 2021. The charges that human rights organizations say were politically motivated. Calls for a two-state solution in the Middle East are growing louder just hours before the UN General Assembly. The UN chief says Palestinian statehood is a right, not a reward. Without it, there will be no peace in the region. The
French president said it's the only way Israelis and Palestinians can live side by side in peace and security. Italians are showing their support for the Palestinians in Gaza, staging a nationwide strike and mass protests across the country. Demonstrators are calling on the government to join other Western nations in recognizing a Palestinian state. CNN's Ben Wiedemann is involved with the latest.
We're in central Rome, where there is a demonstration of tens of thousands of people protesting against the war in Gaza and demanding the Italian government take a stronger stand against the war. The Italian government has, by and large, been passive over the last 2 years. But what we're seeing, this march, this protest is just one of more than 80 Italian towns and cities. What you're seeing is that ordinary civilians, as opposed to their government, are increasingly against the government. Recently, they want the government to do more, stop support for Israel as it continues this war. It is now approaching its second anniversary. And we can see that reporting.
The Trump administration is offering emergency financial help to its political ally, the president of Argentina. Javier Milei famously promised to take a chainsaw to government spending. His programs would dramatically reduce Argentina's inflation rate, but his austerity measures caused deep economic pain and weakened him politically ahead of key elections next month. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the U.S. is ready to provide a large and flexible program of financial intervention for Argentina. Milei is expected to meet with President Trump on Tuesday to discuss it. So, new information from the White House on who may end up controlling TikTok in the U.S.
Did the re-election of Donald Trump play any role in your decision to resign? Why do you need to study it? Since it's the facts on your finger.
Butter and water.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Happiness could lead to living longer. You want to know how? On my podcast, Chasing Life, I'm uncovering the secrets of people around the world who are living happy, healthy, extraordinary lives. Hear how they do it and the science behind why it works. Join me.
Butter and water.
Discover how we can chase life together. Listen to Chasing Life with me, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, wherever you get your podcasts.
We have to bring that down. Butterfly is about a man who is living in Korea who one day decides to upend his life because he has heard that he is being chased by an organization. One of the people who is assigned to go after him turns out to be his daughter. It's a story of how that thread unspools and the ramifications of past decisions he's made.
Okay, so we'll just live happily ever after.
He loved us.
Pay for those.
I wanted to kind of showcase South Korea as a character in our show. We shot in over 20 cities here, and We were trying to be as respectful as we could of the location and the way we shoot and portray Korea because it's a place that I love.
Why?
Because Caddis has something I want to know about. I was born in South Korea, and I still have a lot of relatives here. And a lot of my previous work, I haven't been able to showcase the sides of me that this show allows me to do. I love being American, I love being Korean, and this is a love letter to both cultures. It's that easy to get.
We run these campaigns during major sporting events, not because they cause human trafficking, because human trafficking is a global issue. It exists everywhere, and yet no city or town is exempt. And my name is Sarah Defania, and I'm CEO of It's a Penalty. It's a Penalty has been running 10 years now, and we've been running this campaign during 19 major sporting events, working collaboratively with our partners. We help protect over 4,000 potential victims. I think every time we run a campaign, there's encouragement. We know that we reach 180 million people on average, and education changes behaviour. And also, we know that since 2020, in the US, during the Super Bowl campaign, we've helped rescue over 94 missing children. It's not the sporting events that cause this issue. It is a global issue. It's just that the sporting events provide us with the opportunity to raise awareness and to educate. And so we know that on average, for example, 83% have said that they're now educated in the area of the signs to look out for and the hotlines for dial, and that's important.
I'm Rafael Bomo in Atlanta. This is CNN.
Welcome back. I'm Linda Kincaid. The Trump administration has been looking for investors to take over TikTok in the US because of national security concerns. CNN's Claire Daffy has details on what that new ownership might look like. What happens to the TikTok algorithm had been one of the major outstanding questions surrounding this deal, because the TikTok algorithm is one of the major reasons the app is so popular, but it had also been at the root of some of these concerns that the app poses a national security risk, with U.S. officials worrying that the Chinese government could force parent company ByteDance to manipulate the algorithm and influence Americans. So if this deal goes through, ByteDance will provide
You got them all? Yes! On God, you're gonna thank yourself for this.
Copy of the algorithm to this new majority American-owned joint venture in the United States. That group will review the algorithm, they'll retrain it on American user data, and then the tech company Oracle will continually monitor how the algorithm is serving up content to American users. Now, the White House says the list of investors who are participating in this TikTok deal has not yet been finalized, but we do expect that Oracle will be involved along with private equity firm Silver Lake. And President Trump said over the weekend that tech CEO Michael Dell and both Lachlan and Rupert Murdoch may also be involved. Now, a source tells CNN that it's actually Fox Corp rather than the Murdochs individually who are likely to invest in the company. But stepping back a bit, I do think that, of course, U.S. users will be happy to hear that their access to the app has been preserved. But I think it's going to be interesting to watch the reaction to this idea that this new ownership group, which is going to include at least some Trump allies, is going to be controlling what they see on the app. That is something I'll be watching closely as this deal moves forward. Back to you.
Well, thanks to Claire Duffy. Well, NASA just took one giant leap towards its bold plans to the moon and Mars. The U.S. Space Agency has announced its 2025 astronaut candidate class on Monday. NASA's 10 new astronauts were chosen from a pool of more than 8,000 applicants from across the U.S.
So hit my feet, gumbo go. That's why. got steam heat. I got steam heat. You got steam heat.
Palestinians hope for the future and also make sure that the Israelis can live in peace. And the only way forward is to make sure that now the two-state solution gets, I would say, energy, a second chance.
CNN's Oren Lieberman has further details of the statehood.
French President Emmanuel Macron made clear why he thinks the declaration and recognition of the state of Palestine is so important right now, not only for France, but for a number of other countries that have joined France in officially recognizing a Palestinian state. We saw that recognition come from Australia, Canada, Portugal, and the UK on Sunday, and there are a number of other countries, for example, Belgium and Luxembourg, that are expected to make their declarations throughout the course of the week. There are two primary goals.
I got steam heat.
Is to get as quickly as possible to a ceasefire to end the war in Gaza and to release the remaining hostages. Right at the beginning of his speech, he made clear that October 7th was the worst terror attack in Israel's history. And he talked about the horrific conditions in which the hostages were being held. But then he also went on to say that nothing justifies the ongoing war in Gaza. The displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, the killing of tens of thousands of other Palestinians in this ongoing war. As we see Israel carry out its military escalation, its assault on Gaza City. He said that has to end, and it has to end now. On top of that is the need to keep alive the possibility of a Palestinian state. What France and frankly much of the international community see as the only resolution to the decades-long conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And he said that's why this summit is so important right now, especially as Israel accelerates the expansion of settlements in the occupied West Bank, putting at risk the Abraham Accords, which were President Donald Trump's major foreign policy accomplishment from his first term, and putting at risk the Camp David Accords, the landmark peace between Israel and Egypt from decades ago. It is because he sees those a threat that he says France is leading the way in recognition of a Palestinian state. Now, that did little to sway Israel's position. In fact, throughout the beginning of this summit, Israel's delegation wasn't even in the room there. Israel has lashed out diplomatically and angrily, vowing that there would be a response. That response could be annexation of some or all of the occupied West Bank. It could attempt to kick out the French consulate from Jerusalem or take other steps in that regard.
You got steam
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has to meet President Donald Trump. Netanyahu's speech at the UN General Assembly is on Friday. He is expected to meet Trump on Monday. It is only after that that he said he'll announce how Israel will respond to these countries recognizing the state of Palestine. And that, of course, is because he needs the backing of U.S. President Donald Trump as Israel becomes more isolated on the international stage. Reportedly from CNN in Jerusalem.
I'm going to go now to Nazareth in northern Israel and welcome Ryder Minawi Zwabi, a former member of the Knesset. Great to have you with us.
You need steam heat.
From the U.S. who gives against the technical push Palestinian international recognition of Palestine by countries like France, Canada, Australia. Is it turning point, or is this forward?
Back in the Oslo era, 1994, in Paris protocols, there was discussion about establishing national Palestinian bank and the national Palestinian currency. That was rejected by Israel back then. And for 3 decades, for 30 years, the Palestinian authority is reliant, and the Palestinian people is only reliant on the Israeli currency and the Israeli. So this is one thing that I believe that it has to have tangible, as I said, tangible business.
I want to get some perspective. Can I get some perspective from you on the position in Israel? Because Israel strongly rejected the developments to recognize a Palestinian statehood. As someone who served in the Knesset, do you think there's any political will in Israel now or in the near future for a two-state solution?
Well, if you recall, 10 years ago, Netanyahu himself
That Molotov has full payload capabilities, carpet bombing, two railguns, stealth tech, and a ghost frequency. It will rain hellfire if you let it. Show that robot brain Clifford what a real pilot can do.
Before the war, his main allies were huge orthodox, which were relatively
Okay, you'll be coming up on an SAS Bogdan was talking about. Surface-to-air missile sites with multiple choppers protecting them. Those are your targets, people. That's what we're paying you for.
And in that sense,
it's gone.
It's really focused on the issue of organization. And in fact, in May 2025, the British
Now keep an eye out for the SAMs. Clear them out however you can. Here we go. On the way.
I believe that even Netanyahu is with them. He is now letting people focus on the issue of organization. I don't think that at the end of the day that he will officially declare a formal organization.
You got it.
And he will let the foreign rights acceptance do whatever they like with respect to that. But I think that he will have peace and another step surprise that is planning now to have another step. This is my
I know it feels like it's, the end of this war is so far in the future, it seems. The uniformly advocated for the coexistence and
What are you doing? What are you doing? That's my big girl. What you doing? What you doing? Gumbo, come here. Cut it out! Get. Alright, I gotta watch these two. Okay, well, y'all have a good night. I will see y'all later.